the Oakwood Unit 76 Board of Education. We'll call the meeting to order at 5:31 p.m. Roll call, please.
Bradford. Hicks. Here. Janeski. Lynn.
Here.
Ludwig. Plattner.
Here.
Smith.
Here. As a reminder, we are live streaming this for everybody out there to watch. You stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Don't believe we have any public participation tonight? Do we? That's right. Okay. Agenda item number 3, did everybody have a chance to review the consent agenda that was presented to us? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Second.
Any further discussions? Roll call, please.
Motion by Plattner, seconded by Lynn, to approve the consent agenda items as submitted. Hicks.
Yes.
Lynn.
Yes.
Plattner.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 1.
Agenda item 4, FOIA request, Mr. Maynard. I don't believe we had any this month. No, sir. Perfect. Agenda item 5, OAA report. Mr. Johnson.
Just wanted to give you guys an update on the past couple of, I guess, days here. Seems like longer. Ever since Tuesday with the mask optional, I feel like the reports from the buildings have been well. Things have gone well. I guess I do want to say, and just so I stay on track here, I'm going to read something real quick about Monday. Monday was a really tough situation. So just to go through that real quickly, that was probably one of the most difficult days we faced during this whole 2 years. That Sunday evening, the expectation was sent to our community about continuing our mask required policy until we had more information available. I echoed those expectations to our members that we were still approaching Monday as keep doing what we've been doing until the policy for our district changes. Monday, we all wear the masks, us, the kids, everybody. Yeah, Monday morning, less than 12 hours after that, giving our wait and see policy or stance to the community, our members were told to stand down. Allow students to learn, do not call students out, do not send students to the office. Basically, ignore everything. So in regards to the possibility of the Illinois judicial system reversing course on the mask optional policies, we hope you understand the difficult position the school employees will be put in terms of enforcement. We would see the pushback from the students and parents about a return to masking mandates in our policy, finding ourselves caught in the middle of a situation we have no control over. We would not oppose the reinstitution of the mask mandate if ordered by the state of Illinois, and we definitely do not oppose continuing with the mask optional policy we have had in place the past week. But we are the front line in the enforcement, liability, and freedom of choice issues surrounding these decisions by the groups outside of ours. And since the door has been open for our students and parents to choose for themselves what option is best, we cannot go back to a mask mandate situation without having the support from our administrators and board members to enforce that mandate just as we had before. Basically, the toughest part was we were told to enforce things, and we had that liability issue, and we're told to. And pretty much the majority of our staff faced the parents, and their decisions were more important than us. And then we were told we couldn't do anything about it. So Monday was tough. Everything clear is fine. Everything, no issues since then. Tuesday through all the way up to today, everything's been going great. But Monday was bad. So regardless of whatever decision you guys make for us, we support you guys. But it's hard for us to try to be the enforcement on one thing when we don't have any authority, if that makes sense. So that's our biggest issue for the past, whatever's been going on in the past month. So other than that, that's it.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson? Thank you. Thank you. Committee reports, strategic planning.
Yeah, just a reminder that we've got our final meeting on February 23rd here at 5:30. We will have Dr. Volz as well as Dr. Zabilka, who was with us the last time. They will both be here that night, and they will basically be bringing a culmination of all that's been done the last several months together with the stakeholders, and we will have finalization of what has been determined as goals, through that process as well for the board. So then after that, we should have something together that could be brought to the school board for you to all see collectively.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Finance Committee?
Yes, had an opportunity to have a conversation with the Finance Committee with Mr. Lynn and obviously Mr. Plotner, and just to talk through a situation that kind of came upon us rather quickly in regard to changes in the area with substitute teacher pay. And so since our last study a year ago, things changed quite a bit the last few months, and we needed to make sure that we were as competitive as everyone else so that we could secure the best substitute teachers that are available for our kids in our schools. So that being said, and looking at all the different rates and what was going on in the area, we felt like increasing to $125 per day is the appropriate recommendation. Mr. Lynn and Mr. Plotner agreed with that. So I still feel like that later tonight, it would be good practice, since it is a financial matter that involves money, that we would still have an action item for that tonight. But Mr. Lynn or Mr. Plotner, I didn't know if you had anything else to add to that, or. Okay.
What about our half-day rate? Is it,
Pardon me?
we're just changing the full day rate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was $100. Now we'll bump it up to $125.
Agenda item number 7, administrative reports. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to thank Brian and Rob for being here from Amoresco. Always willing to meet with us and to answer any questions that the board may have tonight. I thought it'd be a good time to check in, especially in light of some of the weather things that we've been dealing with lately. And just so you know, I meet weekly with John Siddons, and I talk a lot with Brian, and Rob is on site all the time. So they're doing a great job from my perspective of keeping me informed of things that are going on and that type of thing. So wanted them to kind of give a few updates here tonight. I think you saw in your packet some of the things that have been going on that I've been informing you about, and I know that lives are busy and it's hard to remember all this. So I'll just kind of do a quick refresher. Some of the things that we're doing, we have that $300,000 contingency, that we've laid out there, because there's always things that come up you don't anticipate. And so, but that's still those are the bookends that we want to adhere to as we're working through this. So along the way, just as a refresher, we've looked at the new junior high wing and having faculty bathrooms in there. Obviously, that could also be used for other students. Could be a situation of a special needs child, whatever it might be. So we've got those in place, and added expense there that folds into that. The other thing was a water line reroute, and if I have this correctly, the original blueprints did not show that water line underneath runs diagonal underneath where we're going to be building. And that's really not a good idea in the event down the road you have a problem, you can't access that water line. So we made a decision to reroute that and go around the facility, and it'll tie in better to the mechanical room. Is that pretty much correct on that? Okay. So there's a little bit of a cost to that to reroute it, but it'll help us out down the road. Makes good sense. We also added a classroom by putting a wall where the band room was. The band room was taking up 2 classrooms, and our design wants to divide that, add another classroom, and then we can take that band room and we can actually build some platforms to work upward to make better use of our space and still have access for growth for our kids in terms of numbers there. We looked at our gym space and capacity, and we needed to add a corridor to provide better access to the gym from our 7th and 8th grade wing and the 6th graders over there. So that is something that I've been sharing with you that we have done as a part of this along the way. The still working with the preschool equipment, that a lot of that's been ordered, so forth will come a little bit later, and the outdoor equipment. Probably the biggest thing right now, and of course we'll got these gentlemen here to answer any questions you may have, is there probably needs to be a decision about the STEM lab. Okay, we've got a 7th and 8th grade science classroom, and to take that classroom and to turn it more into a STEM lab for our kids and our staff members, there's a cost to that, to do that. And the option one would be taking one of those classrooms, putting in the double sink, and making sure we've got all the gas, water hookups needed for labs and experiments. And then as a 6th or an 8th grade teacher needed to utilize that, they could just kind of swap out their rooms for the day, that type of thing. But we want to always have the availability for growth down the stretch. So that way, in the event that the money comes in, then we're ready to go as far as adding those sinks to that other junior high STEM classroom. So it looks like on the, as far as the options of what we can do, the cheapest option for the STEM lab, which would be what I just spoke to about the 2 sinks, would be about $69,000, roughly. So that's probably something that we need a little direction on from the board right now. If we go beyond that, it'll start to move us outside of that $300,000 bookend. Okay, but obviously there's still room for that growth down the road. So that's probably most of the refresher and highlights that I have right now. And said, Brian and Rob, you're here. You can probably a good time for you to jump in and see if there's anything else. I know we talked about some HVAC things that are going to be better even than the original plan. So if it's okay, I'll hand it over to you guys. They're here for questions tonight too. So anything that the board may have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're here for questions. Just to explain a little bit about what Larry was saying. We are still slating. I know we're not out of the ground yet, which has, I'm sure everybody nervous because our original schedule said we were going to be, foundations, walls going in, roofing, and that kind of stuff right now. We have, Rob is doing a great job staying on top with our contractors for deliveries and everything else. Regarding the parts in, supplies, we're still slated to have this done so you can open next year with the 7th and 8th grades. That's not a concern. For that reason, actually, we've made a slight modification to the heating and cooling system within the space. The manufacturer of the heating and cooling system type that you have currently in that building came back to us and told us that they wouldn't ship the equipment before September of next year. So we've made a change. We're not going to put that system in because we're not going to wait. We're actually putting in a system that we feel to be an upgrade. It's more energy efficient. It's got dedicated outdoor air systems that are measurable to watch the classrooms, and then individual zone control for heating and cooling, where especially in swing seasons, the unit can go back and forth and share the energy efficiency between classrooms, but each one is individually controlled. So that is something that we are doing for our own schedule. That's you'll notice is not part of Larry's discussion on what's coming out of the allowance, because our decision was that we promised a schedule to have this done, and we're going to make that change. So to that point, Rob, do you have other schedule updates that you want to?
Well, I know when we first talked about construction schedules, we kind of had the idea of we can actually get that under roof. We can start doing some of the interior work, and then when the weather turned over, we could do the exterior. But now you have to adjust to the time. And so now a lot of that stuff's going to be going in parallel. We're going to be doing a lot of the interior work and the exterior work at the same time. And as I was mentioning to Larry and everyone else, is that as far as the expectation that we've got to get this finished, we have no problem meeting our date. And the reason why is because we jumped on early, getting all the equipment squared away, materials. Obviously, there was issues with roofing insulation, all the different things that are kind of like the long lead items that they were telling us, like with the HVAC, we're not gonna get it till September, that's not acceptable. So we had to go back to the drawing board and like to kind of piggyback off that HVAC system. It's also gonna be giving a building automation control in that wing as well, where you'll be able to remotely access each one of the teachers' thermostats individually. You don't necessarily have to be in the building. You can troubleshoot from anywhere. And we stand behind the product because we're installing all over the state. But to drive home with the weather, obviously we're watching the weather. I know we get a 50-degree day and we're like, well, why aren't you out there? Obviously the ground has to, thaw first. And in order to make a solid foundation, we have to make sure that there's no frost. And if they don't have the right pressure or compaction, then they won't. The last thing we want is any cracks after we, install this flat work. So we are pushing forward. The second we get the opportunity, we'll get on site and hopefully will not be removed from this site. And like I said, we are basically we're working real close with John to kind of get things coordinated to where the second we're able to get you guys access to the building, you guys are gonna get access to start putting things in place for your teachers. So.
I have a question. So if we do one room, one lab, and then the other one is a regular classroom, or is it structured differently than a regular classroom because it's a?
So what we actually have is the drain lines, we're already figuring having drain lines in the walls themselves. So the thought is that at a later date, you still have the ability, the big item is actually getting the drain system over in place. So when we actually have before we put the foundation in, that's when we're gonna put all these underground lines. In a later date, then because we have drop ceiling similar to what we have in here, you have the ability to access the gas, the water, and all the accessories that kind of go with this lab. Now, there will be some things that are associated with it that you'll have to add on later, but there is an ability to do that. The benefit about doing it now is because when you have mobilization, when you have the contractors on site, you kind of lock them in with the project now. That way, instead of trying to come back to them later, you get a better rate as far as the package goes. So when you do it later, typically that's a little more.
Short answer is it will be structured like a regular classroom. You won't notice the difference other than it will be, call it laboratory ready with those drain lines in place and capped off.
Okay,
And
and so,
locations marked, and then the water and gas lines being run to that area were already factored in.
so it's 69,000 to make it a lab, is that correct? Or,
The cabinetry for labs, the countertops, the gas, the components that go into that, that's that cost for installing that as additional to that prep work that we already have factored.
okay, so the prep work is there, the 69 is just changing the regular classroom to a lab kind of classroom. So if you were to go later on and change that into a lab,
Mhm.
then is that $69,000 to do that, or is that more than that, or?
The rates we're seeing with the cabinetry and laboratory stuff would be what would change it. Like Rob was saying, our contract is already there, they're already installing one, so installing the second is not a big additional labor add. I'd say a majority of that cost is in the materials, and that's just gonna fluctuate with what the material is. So I couldn't tell you what it is 3-4 years from now. I would assume that we'd be right in that same ballpark if you decided, sometime next year to do it. I think those would be fairly consistent costs.
Well, kind of here's my thought. So we are a Title I school just with K-6 or pre-K through 6 right now, but we will be a Title I school, I gotta rewrite the whole thing, but pre-K through 8, which will bring us more money, correct? Because of our free and reduced numbers. So we'll have a little bigger budget for one building, but again, adding the junior high to that. And there's flexibility in that money but it's not my money until next year till we're legit K through 8. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that are these things that we can purchase the cabinetry, those kinds of things. So if it's a regular classroom, is it structured so that next year maybe, if with Title I money and approval and everything else, that we could make it, that with our own funding, or is that not an option?
Yeah, I think it would be an option. You'd have everything in place. When you start talking about the components that makes you a quote unquote STEM lab, you're talking about the exhaust systems, you're talking about emergency
Yeah,
shut off for gas and all that. That stuff will not be in place unless you move forward. But right now, everything's pretty well
Oh, so we
terminated
would
in
have
that
to
wall.
commit to
So all that,
2 rooms.
and the thing too, power. When you start talking about having the hot plates or anything along those lines, those have their own dedicated circuits. So you're talking about more circuits and everything else that are associated.
But I mean, that being said, a year from now, if you have that funding available, there's nothing that says you couldn't run new circuits to get there, right? Like, a lot of that cabinetry has additional circuitry built into it to handle the hot plates or some other lab. The electrical to the building will already be there. You just have a dedicated circuit from the panel that would have to be brought into that classroom. Again, it's gonna be across drop ceilings, laying ceilings, so part of that cost is in that 69, cabinetry plus connecting it. But it is definitely something you could decide to do at a later date.
Thank you.
And with the sink and the dedication you're doing in that one lab, will it have additional electricity compared to the other classrooms or identical to the other classrooms?
No, the one, I'm sorry, which one are you thinking is
The
additional?
one that you have the sink in, will that have also more electricity?
The one getting the sink, the cabinetry has electric outlets in the cabinet for those science experiment type utensils that are plugged into the cabinet on the counter. So that will be installed when that cabinetry is put in and when it has the sink and the water and everything else.
I'm really confused. So we're gonna start from the very beginning.
No problem.
Are we talking about allocation 1? Because it looks like we're talking about in this that went out with the board packet. Allocation 1 says 63,000, basically 64,000, includes requested additional staff toilets, rough-in for the lab, classroom, plumbing and gas, and to 2 classrooms, and additional temporary fencing. So is this 64 really the 69 we're talking about?
Is a short answer.
Okay.
That number is an allocation that we discussed previously when we were gonna get rooms, I'm gonna call them lab ready for this lab rough-in. We were gonna bring the gas lines to above the ceiling, cap them off, have them ready so that you could make the decision at a later date.
Okay.
That included the 2 rooms, getting the lab drain lines and things underside. The 69 that Larry mentioned is the additional cost to bring in cabinetry, countertops, the sinks, and connect that system and bring the additional electric to those locations. Okay, so
That's not even mentioned in here.
it's not.
Okay.
The original outline that is in that memo that you have a copy of, that is this one, it was, the 69 is a number that Larry came back and asked us to look at if we downsize the, I'm looking for the number here, I apologize. The 150 that was out, that was number 4.
Okay.
The back page option. The 150 is inclusive of 4 different sinks, additional cabinetry, furniture for the classrooms. When we backed off the other furniture for the classrooms, cut down the number of sinks, made the cabinetry smaller, shorter along the wall, that's the 69 that was mentioned.
So the 150 became 69?
Yes.
Okay. Get caught up.
So the 69 is just for the one lab, correct?
So if we do the larger, so if we do all of option or allocation 4, it will be 150.
It'll be close, wouldn't it? That's what I was thinking, because you have the 63 plus the cabinet, if you add in all the cabinetry.
So,
No, real quick, the 63 is inclusive of not just laboratory, that was just one of the things we were doing while we were running piping. The 63 number and allocation number 1 is the staff restrooms,
Yes.
the
Okay.
rough-in, and there was some.
Some temporary fencing, which is really small.
Yeah. So that is, that's an allocation that gets your building ready for it. The 69 versus 150 is a function of doing one of the classrooms, but it's a matter of how much of that information is in there. So the 150 that's described, the memo is talking about the ADA workstation, countertops, it has 4 sinks, multiple gas turrets,
Gotcha.
multiple outlets. The 69 is getting rid of the added furniture
Right.
for the classroom and basically cutting that countertop down to 2 sinks and shortening the number of cabinets and the extra overhead assemblies.
So the 64 gets both labs basically roughed in.
Yeah.
And then the 69 delivers 1 2-sink lab.
yes,
And if we wanted to do 2 more sinks in the other lab, which it's ready for, that'll be incremental cost at that time.
correct.
Might land around 150.
If you want to do the full,
Yeah. But the allocation 1 gets everything roughed in, right?
everything from the drain lines that's underneath, that's going to go into the walls, and then, yes, we're on the
Gotcha.
at the top.
So
Gas line lines.
if we decide to do this later, to her point, with future funds, it's ready to rock, plug and play, right? Gotta run some, we gotta pull some wire,
Pull some wires and
put
finish.
some gas valves on, and some shut offs and do some stuff, but no major infrastructure costs.
So
We're not
that's why
jackhammering
that's why we're doing the
concrete.
drain line now.
No, right.
Okay. You're not taking out the concrete for the floor. You're not doing major wall renovations.
It's all there.
Into there. And we'll come up with where you want that line stopped so that everybody knows where it's at.
Well, now the question's on the first one, let's go on to the next one. Do you want to talk about each one of these allocations, since the memo was in the board minutes, in the packet?
That's what we're here for.
All right.
Questions you have?
Yeah, those are the allowance of funds. The first one is just basically what you just talked about. Option 1, restrooms, rough ends, temporary fencing. We did all that. Subsequent things is that we moved the mechanical room, and that is where the corridor comes in and the adjustment to the band room. And the third one allocation that we're figuring in is the rerouting of the water line that we had talked about earlier. The fourth one about the 2 STEM labs is that one's just pending, depending on what it is that you decide to do as far as how many sinks you want, how many classrooms you want. Hope that helps. Explanation. Do you guys want to maybe talk a little bit about the nurses' mechanical room and corridor and that type of thing a little bit?
Might as well, yeah.
Sounds good.
So what the whole purpose of adding this is you're going to gain occupancy load in the gymnasium. You're going to be able to isolate the junior high to where they can travel through the gymnasium, not have to travel through any other grade levels in order to get to the cafeteria. You're gaining a mechanical room. You're gaining a nurse's station or nurse's room, classroom, or office. We are actually making more means of egress in order to make the occupancy load for the gym increase, and that's actually going to go through your existing mechanical room. We're actually going to put a corridor in there that's going to support traffic flow whenever you have a function. Many of the things that we're also kind of figuring is the fact that just trying to, what am I thinking? I think that's pretty well the allocation for it. It's a snapshot.
Right. It's a snapshot of the, specifically, or?
That makes sense. It seems high. What's really driving that larger number? Really, all we're doing is moving around some existing walls that were already there and adding some doors, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So you're adding additional square footage as far as the corridor and the mechanical room, so that's building addition. You're talking about actually adding more walls, obviously, for the corridor. You're talking about making different modifications to existing doors.
So this corridor wasn't in the existing footprint already?
Correct.
So it's additional real
So
estate.
you're connecting, you're actually connecting that northwest portion of the gym to the main.
I understood I thought we were just taking part of the mechanical room away to make room for this corridor.
No, this
Okay.
is that.
New
that's
real
all
estate.
Additional
Okay.
real estate. The nurse's office is, an additional space that adds additional HVAC, additional lighting, additional finished ceilings, as opposed to having the storage space before.
Where does that kick out into? Does that kick out into the south courtyard, or where's that at?
The corridor?
The corridor and the nurse's room?
So the nurse's room actually is what was previously the mechanical or storage space in kind of the middle of the room, where we're building out the two staff restrooms. There was still a storage space left. That becomes the nurse's office. So that gets, as I said, finish out section mechanical.
And so that was about right
That was about
there.
there. In the middle.
Okay.
So that's,
So are we coming this way? We're coming south with it?
no, it's still within that same line. What happens, the additional real estate is to your point, if this is the addition, it comes this way and ties into the existing gym, which comes out here as well.
Okay.
It's on the north exit of the town.
So it kind of is creeping in the south. What would be the northeast corner of that courtyard, southeast corner of the new construction.
Yes.
New real estate right there.
Yes, that's new real estate. So we're still outside of the main
Right.
courtyard area.
And how much additional square footage is this?
Dimensions are there.
It's like 800.
Yeah, I was gonna say close to 1,000
Yeah.
roughly.
Yeah, close to that. It's about 22 feet by 34, 35. Plus different exit doors and steps, so.
I think that makes sense. I like it just as another way to get out. Nothing else, just for that.
I agree.
So the water line, we're just gonna bury it in the ground around the perimeter of the outside? It says runs along the building.
We're
so
gonna run parallel to the north of the building, so it's
Okay.
gonna be.
Yeah.
And I think it's illustrated on one of the pages, so what's gonna end up happening is once it actually comes into the building, it's gonna come up and there's gonna be your connect for the fire department.
Mhm.
And then it's gonna go up through the ceiling and stay literally above the new acoustical ceiling.
Okay.
So what ends up happening there is in the future, if there's ever any problems, you have accessibility to it and not have to worry about the structural integrity of the building if something should rupture.
Yours is in black and white.
Yeah, I can't see it.
So the blue dash line happens to be where it runs
We're running now.
The red line here will come along the edge of the street and stay similar to what's already buried this way in front of the existing building, and then we'll come up through the building and cut across that corridor.
No sidewalk on top of it.
No.
It may be under the.
No, it's still under the grass and it's through the walkway there, so it's still accessible and not underneath your new foundation.
When it breaks, because it will.
We actually had looked at an option to describe it as fortify the existing location. The types of connections in the pipe were gonna have to all be strengthened. And what we found was that the idea of digging that line, that blue dash line up and finding all of the existing connections and redoing them was more expensive than cutting it off at each end and doing this option.
And not robust.
And not as
It's not
robust.
smart to pour concrete over.
You're still underneath
Water
water
lines.
lines. You're still underneath the foundation and But we were looking for
I've done
cost
it. It
savings.
hasn't failed yet, but it's going to one day. I'm not looking forward to it.
We were trying to be cost conscious and found it was gonna be more, so we didn't even bring it up.
So I have no questions about this memo, but I just saw this one this evening, which is that's just gymnasium, pie in the sky, stuff for discussion, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just basically letting you know that I've been working with Amoresco. We're trying to come up with some different options to start with. Each of the models are a little different, and we can always go somewhere in between. Wanted to kind of associate it with a little bit of a cost, so that way we could be thinking about, like you said, pie in the sky, things down the road, what it might be, and instead of we're just talking about it, we've actually got something on paper, and Amoresco's been good to provide this for us. So
So if we look at our $300,000 allowance, the corridor is 180, the sprinkler's 20, that puts us at 200. Staff restrooms and to get ourselves ready for STEM labs in one or both is another 64. So we will be eating up 264 of our 300, correct?
exactly, yes, sir.
Okay, as long as you've gone that far with it, then to complete the 2 labs out, what additional are we going over that we're asking?
We would be, if you did the 150 on the labs, it adds up to 414.
Okay,
It's 114 over. So if we wait on the lab stuff, to Michelle's point, we stay within our allocation, because something else is gonna come up.
So are we just saying at this point, we're doing like a 2-sink option?
It'll be
Lab.
plumbed and ready for 4. Correct?
Yes,
Plumbed and ready for 4.
Each room.
each room is plumbed and ready for 4. Yes.
but none will have any
No,
of this
no.
until we spend the
Right.
114.
Or
Okay.
69 for one.
Okay,
but all the infrastructure will be there. We could put in 1 if we wanted to at a time, or if she gets all the money, do it all at one time. That doesn't have to be done today. They can function as classrooms until we get that money.
I think she's getting the money.
I think she will too.
He always gets the money for us.
I just kind of feel like that's the best option for that. And it could be a lot more money that we could just go in and really take care of it, or it could be we take out so much yearly to put towards that to do it. But the whole thing is approval, because I don't think there's been construction in a Title grant, in a Title I grant.
Right.
So we're gonna have to go through some hurdles to get to that point, but those are, with the information I have tonight, I can make that phone call tomorrow to see if that's,
Yeah.
hey, if my consultant stays the same would be great, but looking down the road, is this something that I can do?
I think you could position this that cabinets and burners and are not construction.
Yes, is what I'm,
Yeah, that's just finishing off the room. It's no different than a table or a chair or a countertop or anything else. But if we do the 64, the construction part, it's already there.
Well, it all won't be there because you're gonna have to add power and all
A
that.
couple of runs, but that's not very expensive. We're talking a couple grand.
Maybe run some power over there.
Oh, you're gonna talk more than that.
You think?
Oh, yeah. Because we've been doing stuff at the high school and stuff's actually more money than what you think right now. Things are not cheap. And labor is not cheap. Ask Michelle, she flips out every time I give her a labor bill.
I hate the labor bill, like I
I
don't,
mean, it's
I want
expensive
things, I
right now.
don't want,
Please make sure the panel has room. So when we do this later, that we can,
Yes,
that we're not like,
that's part of that.
okay.
In that 64 we're planning for.
So tonight, Mr. Mayor, we've got allocation 1. We know that's already done for the memo. Do we need to give guidance on some of the others? Is that the way I'm understanding this?
Yeah, really I think what's good is that we've already approved this work order with Amoresco. We've approved the 300,000 to be in. So it's not like it takes additional action because we're still within that. But it would be good to have some direction tonight from the board on, if we're just gonna do the one classroom with the 2 sinks to start with the understanding that down the road, we're gonna look at some other possibilities to help do more. That kind of helps Amoresco too, to know in terms of supplies and ordering and things going. So
Are there lead time issues with the sinks and the burners and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so the sooner we can get this released, the better, because I mean, we've been seeing a lot of the times where it should only take you about, 8 to 10 weeks. Now we're looking at probably 16 to 20.
what I
Just
need to
because
have
of the fact that availability, a lot of it has to do with tops, they're all specialty
Whether
items.
we're gonna
that can
go
be
with
made.
option 1, the 2 sink option, or
Again, that's not to add pressure to the decision.
No,
It's just.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Ready
And we're talking weeks, not months, so I just don't think we should, if we do everything that's in this memo, we're 114,000 over our allocation, and we have to take action.
Yeah.
So I say leave the sinks and the cabinets out, leave that 150. We're already getting the infrastructure in place for it. Leave ourselves some wiggle room in the remainder of the 300,000. See what you can do on a grant basis. And that would be my recommendation. Take that. Build the classrooms, make them functional, and we'll do sinks and full lab at a future date. Could be really soon, right? Depending on what you find out. How about the time the building's done, you might have that finished and the stuff's on order and it goes in as the last step.
Sure.
So I don't think we should burn through our 300,000 all right now.
Ms. Britton, where do we have the junior high now?
We have one lab right now,
One STEM lab.
one STEM lab, and the other one's a classroom and both have sinks.
They both have sinks, you said? They do. Just like a one sink in each.
The bigger one, maybe more than one, but I know definitely one. There's only one, the bigger two,
And there's no gas.
and there's no gas.
Mr. Plattner, you said you don't want to burn through that 300, but we in fact have.
Almost.
Yeah, so we're
64.
264. Okay, yeah, and all that's been agreed, that's done and we're doing that.
Well, I think that's what we're talking through.
Yes,
That's my opinion would be that where we stop for
Yes.
now. And leave ourselves a little bit of wiggle room for the next 20,000 water line that needs to be moved,
yes.
whatever it is, And we can, I think we can work on a congruent path to acquire the sinks and stuff later.
Ms. Bradford, your thoughts?
I agree exactly with
Yeah.
what Mr. Faulkner
So to
said.
clarify, right now, we have the hold off on all the lab equipment for the STEM lab.
Yeah, just the
Okay.
cabinets and the
Get it plumbed and ready.
plumbed and ready, built so that we can find another way to get money for that stuff. I fully think that we'll do it.
Mhm.
Not with money from this bucket.
there could be another school maintenance grant, that comes along as well, for 50,000 down the road too. So just have to look into every option we can.
We'll figure it out. We'll find a way.
Ms. Hicks,
I agree.
will you give direction, Mr. Mayor?
I believe I do. I think we're clear. We're gonna hold off on the sinks and everything.
So we'll get the rooms ready.
Get everything ready to go.
Yep.
Once we get some finances, then we'll certainly move forward. Expand. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the discussion, the conversation. That really helps me right now here too. Allows me to loosen up my tie a little bit too in terms of the budget, so I appreciate that. As far as other things on the agenda here for superintendent's report, you saw the treasurer's report. You see my cash flow analysis there. Money's flowing in and out, so happy about that. And I look at kind of where we were at this time last year, and we're just right on par. So I just feel really good about how the reimbursements are coming in as we're paying our bills and that type of thing for Amoresco. So Also, in terms of the renewal application, I want to let you know that I did work with Prairie State Insurance Cooperative to let them know that we've got construction that's going on. So that way, starting March 1st, we will have coverage for the new wing facility. So that way we don't get into a situation where we've got something that's being erected there and all of a sudden big storm comes through or something, we're not covered in terms of insurance. So work with Prairie State on that. So they've assured me we're good there since we notified them. Board policy was in your packet. We've had that a couple months. So I'll be asking later that we could approve those to update our board policy manual. There was a lot. So that's why I took our time with it. We've got our district annual review for safety in March. That'll involve the police officer and the principals and other staff members, be our fire chief as well. And economic interest forms are due to Dinah. So we get those in the clerk's office. I did want to throw out that our March meeting, the 16th and 17th, are from 4 to 7, our parent-teacher conferences. There's been some conversation in the past about that situation because on the that Wednesday night, we've got a board meeting at 5:30, and then we've got parent-teacher conferences from 4 to 7. So I didn't know if you wanted to move that board meeting on Wednesday night to Tuesday night, or if you want to keep it, or if you want to adjust the time, or just continue to do as we've done in the past. I just wanted to bring that to your attention in advance. I like the idea as a superintendent to be able to be in the buildings, for parent-teacher conferences, to see parents and answer questions and that type of thing. I can still do that one of those nights, but obviously one night we'll be doing some business. I don't know how long the meeting will be, of course, but I just want to throw that out there to see if the board would like me to do anything different with that meeting.
I'll speak up. I'm in favor of moving the board meeting that night. Other members? I think it's good because, some of us have kids in the district who like to go and have the ability to hit it in the night. I think it's good for you to be there. Our administrators have the ability to, and typically they stay in their buildings that night, but it's good to have them here too. So I'm in favor of moving that.
I concur.
Agreed.
Would you prefer the Tuesday night then? The night before? And then
That's fine.
Tuesday night board meeting, then Wednesday, Thursday night parent-teacher conferences. Principals, is there anything related to that I need to be aware of? So in terms of the board meeting? Okay. All right. Let's see here. Other than that, I did hear back on the property tax relief. We were not awarded that this year. And also, you'll see in your packet the seniority list that's been viewed, approved by the association. They've had a chance to look at that, confirm that. So we'll ask for your approval on that tonight. That's routine. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Maynard? Thank you. Nurses. Mr. Maynard,
I do not see the nurses here. They did provide a report to you that's in your board packet. Mr. Smith had asked, just inquired about some of the things that were going on with our adjustments and test to stay and that type of thing. So they did give me a report that's in your packet. If you have any questions you need answers to, just let me know. I'll be happy to find those for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Curriculum, Ms. Kimbrough.
Well, I think I want to start off kind of still John's thunder a little bit, but the back room is really going well. We have everything painted, floors got started, he did the uppers, and it's just amazing. It's just, even for teachers in that building to even peek down, it just looks so much better, is kind of the short end of it. I had Shannon and Dinah came out one night and helped me paint, and I've been kind of painting during the day after work, in the evenings, on the weekends, and just trying to stay ahead of John, because once the floor is down, we don't want to paint. So he did the ceiling, I kind of did the walls, he kind of did the cabinets, he did working on the floor. So it's been kind of a, I think it's really taken off in the last week or so, and it just, I'm just really excited for that. That's probably like the big thing going on. Other than that, I kind of feel like the teachers are kind of up in their game a little bit, just with having me do a lot of things, because doing a lot of hands-on activities, a lot of labs, a lot of dissections, so during the snow days, I came back from the snow days with the laundry list of, I need color copies, I need packets made, can you order this? Can we do a breakout box? Can we do, so all good things. So I think that, I hate to say it, but like those 3 snow days, I think kind of refreshed a little bit and kind of came back and I'm ready to go. But there's teachers doing great things out there, and I just love the hands-on. I love going back to that piece. I feel like the engagement piece with, being cautious and staying, I feel like we're kind of starting to do more, and the kids are excited to be there, so. That's about all I have.
Any question, Ms. Kimbrell? High school, Mr. Earl.
Well, I just want to echo what Ms. Kimbrough said. The kids are excited to be there. They see the smiles on their faces, and just the whole social emotional attitudes have improved considerably in the last few days. I just want to highlight a couple of some dates. Next week will be the FFA week, so we'll have activities going on during homeroom. The kids will get a chance to do some of that hands-on stuff. The other date I wanted to highlight is March 30th is when we're going to have freshman orientation at 6 p.m. At the high school. So we'll get our freshmen in this year. It'll be back to more of a normal freshman orientation versus the abbreviated version where we had people rotating in and everything last year. So we're going to go back to the group, have the teachers there, and it'll be more back to normal, which is what we're trying to get to. Prom is planned for May 7th. So we're looking at prom on May 7th, which, like I said, every one of these is a step forward from where we were last year. And then graduation is planned for May 22nd. And we're going to have it back at OGS like we've had in the past. And OHS, the high school, will be at 1 p.m. Junior high, we're going to go at 4. That's a little bit different than in the past. It used to be 1 and 3:30, but we felt like adding that extra 30 minutes would help with some of the congestion around the construction and everything going on at the grade school at that time. But on a Sunday, I think we'll be able to avoid most of the construction issues, unless they're going to work on Sundays, and we have to look at that. But that is pretty much all I've got. You've got other information in the packet about enrollment and how the attendance has been. I just want to highlight that for you as we finish the first semester, and we're all 7 weeks into the third quarter now, so things are kind of smoothing out a little bit.
Any question, Mr. Earl? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Maynard, Mr. Says, before I forget about it, make sure we coordinate with Amoresco. I don't want them to be doing something that'll.
They're aware of our
Okay.
graduation date.
Okay.
Thank you for the reminder.
I just don't want that to creep in
Yes.
the day before and that become an issue.
We made sure that we could still do our thing, so, but no, I appreciate the reminder, absolutely. Big deal.
Mr. Shelton.
Well, I'll start by saying that pretty exciting times at Oakwood High School for athletics. It's been kind of wrapping up the winter right now, but the boys basketball team, cheer, dance, and band had their senior night last night. Got a big win against La Salette for JV and varsity. The seeding came out for them. They have the 7th seed in the regional, and that means that we're going to host a regional game here at Oakwood High School on Saturday at 6 o'clock. So we're excited about hosting that. Also, we had a senior we honored last night who broke the 1,000-point mark, which was Josh Young. So great milestone for him. And like I said, the boys are playing well. We're excited for postseason play for them. The girls, also exciting as well. They started their regional play. They are the number 2 team in the subsectional. They ended up getting a bye in the first round of the regional, and then beat Bismarck to advance to their regional championship game tomorrow night at PBL. So really excited that maybe we'll come back tomorrow night with a regional championship plaque for the girls. So really excited for that. And then wrestling also has had a fantastic season. As a matter of fact, they were 7-1 in the month of January, which led them into the regionals and sectionals. We had 7 kids qualify for sectionals and 4 kids qualify, including Joe Lashway for state. And Joe Lashway and Reef Paycott both recorded 100 wins in their career. And Joe is number one ranked wrestler at the 160-pound mark in the state of Illinois. So it's a big accomplishment. He is going to wrestle tomorrow at Champaign, the State Farm Center, and hopefully we'll have a state champion. So we're really excited with the wrestling program and what they've done this year. Coach Foster's done a great job. And then also in the board package, just some things I wanted to kind of highlight as well. On January 31st, we had the honor to recognize the 1982 girls Sweet 16 team that Coach Waters and the girls here from Oakwood that made 40-year anniversary. So it was really awesome. A lot of girls, most of the girls actually from that team showed up, and it was a fantastic night. I know our girls were even motivated by them being there. So it was awesome to meet some of those ladies and honor that team. So then also a new item that was not in your packet was a bit of a tracked shift here as we're entering the spring. And we've got Coach Mandrell would like to possibly move into a volunteer position. So he is hoping to possibly resign here, and it would make that effective next month. And we have Coach Wells that's also part of the program right now that I initially we thought that he would like to step up and do that, but we also want to make it fair to everyone and open that up. So we did that today. That's been opened up for the head boys track coach. And so we'll keep that open in the district, but there is someone in house, and we do have both coaches still actively coaching the boys at this moment. So that's track. And then lastly, Mr. Odell and I are recommending Cameron Lee as the head varsity football coach this evening. Cameron is an Oakwood grad, as all you guys know. He played at Illinois State collegiately and also went on to play professionally. So we think he brings a level of knowledge and expertise that maybe is pretty much unmatched by any other candidate we would possibly receive. So we are really excited to recommend him this evening. There are a couple of drawbacks there with his job. Practices may have to be altered and be of a morning. And so that could be a little bit different than what we've seen in the past and in the area as far as how we would handle some of those practices. But Cameron is on board with any adaptations that we would need to make administratively that would still accommodate his work schedule and our kids as well. So I guess if you have any questions about that, I'm sure or myself we can answer those for you. Otherwise, that's all I have.
Any questions for Ms. Shelton?
So if you ever hear him on that mic, you realize why he's a little sore throat. After senior night last night, he sounds like the guy on the World Wrestling Federation. He hypes those kids up. Excellent job.
But they deserve it, though. These are some great kids and great talents at the high school. So really impressed with this winter, and looking forward to the spring, which is upcoming here pretty soon. So, yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. Junior high, Ms. Burton.
Good evening. This is the time of year where we're looking at transitions at the junior high. Our 7th graders, we're trying to prepare them for 8th grade, and 8th grade building that independence for high school. We had an assembly at the grade school yesterday. We were invited to come down, so I'd like to thank Mrs. Johnson, the administration at Oakwood Grade School, and Mrs. Kimbrough for putting that together. It was exciting to see kids together positively. We had a lot of kids participate, and it was across the board, and they talked a lot about it. So it's a good way to keep us positive and moving forward. Volleyball our 8th grade team will play for 3rd and 4th place at Potomac tomorrow night. We hope, weather permitting. If not, we've got 2 days. We're gonna take that all the way through. We have 3 different extracurriculars left for this semester. Spelling team is in their preliminary. Scholastic Bowl will start at the end of February, and track will start in March. We have a fine arts concert at the junior high on March 11th at 7 p.m. That will be just junior high, and it's a fun time to highlight those kids. They really enjoy participating in the school. Our student council will do a celebration on 2/22 of 22, and it's gonna be our Tuesday, tutus, ties, and tube socks, so we're gonna do a lot of fun stuff with our kids that day. And graduation again is May 22nd. I'm looking forward to having it back at the grade school. We are just rocking and rolling. Thank you.
Any questions, Ms. Bergen? Thank you.
Thank you.
Grade school, Ms. Lepenis.
This week we've been celebrating Kindness Week, so we've had themes for each day, which has been a lot of fun. And then as was already mentioned, we had Mr. Basketball out yesterday for our assembly, which the theme was also kindness for that. So the students have really enjoyed that. Want to thank the Mrs. Brandt and the high school business classes for donating $250 to our incentive fund. So that was nice, and that'll be helpful to help support our positive behavior plan in the building. And then I included some student growth information for our math interventionist, Ashley Knox, sorry. The scores look really good, and what is interesting about that is she's been pulled a lot to have to sub because we've had a lot of staff shortages in the building. So even with that going against her, she's shown a lot of growth with her students. So we're thankful for her. That's it.
Any questions from Ms. Lepenis? Thank you. Ms. Acton.
All right, so I included the standard things I put in for our attendance numbers as well as our celebrations with Student of the Month. One thing that missed the report because it was announced on Monday is that our scholastical team has been announced. We have 4 6th graders and 5 5th graders that will be participating this year. Scholastical didn't happen last year, so this is exciting for our students to be able to get back to some normalcy with that program. Then, as both of the ladies to the left of me, right of me said, we have the assembly this week. The assembly was wonderful, but one piece that we were able to do because of the assembly was dismissal with the junior high in the grade school building. So we were able to get an idea of what it might look like next year when we have the junior high present. Car rider, I was anticipating that it would be a much larger delay. I think it took an extra 5 minutes than our normal routine. And I feel like that's pretty impressive just because the students didn't really know the routine and the functionality of the program yet. We had a couple hiccups. We definitely need some more supervision in the hallways because we have a lot more bigger kids coming down with smaller kiddos. So just that piece. And then John has been working on getting radios for me because we will need some additional communication pieces down there. But it was a good way to get those kinks worked out before we actually have them in the building.
Any questions from Ms. Acton? Thank you. Technology, Mr. Richardson.
The big thing I worked on last month was the civil rights data collection report. I tried doing it in the end of January, and it was very slow, as with most government systems. Very, very slow. Like I click a page, it takes a couple minutes to load. So I ended up doing it during our snow days. Ended up getting it up to 5:30, doing it from 5:30 to 8 because it wasn't slow during that time, and I ended up getting it taken care of. Other than that, I'm getting the preliminary going for the new networking at the new junior high. That new maintenance closet that's being built there next to the gym, that's a very good location for network wrap, so I'm excited about that. That's gonna help me out a lot with planning the network and everything there. That's pretty much all I have. Any questions?
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Ms. Lunt can be here tonight. She did give us her report. Maintenance, Ms. Siddons.
I really don't have anything because everybody takes mine, so if you want to know anything, you can ask them.
Nice job.
I will say something on behalf of Mr. Siddons, if it's okay. Mr. Siddons has been probably busier than he's ever been this year with all that's going on with construction and the remodeling of the home ec room. He's been very instrumental in working with Michelle. And, he does a lot of things in this school district. He does a lot of extra things. He's obviously involved when we have snow days, things like that. He doesn't tell you that he also drives a bus sometimes before and after school. I mean, he is an amazing team player that is always communicating and trying to figure out what he can do to help and things of that nature. And I just want to publicly thank Mr. Siddons for all you're doing. So appreciate it very much. You add a lot of value to our school district.
I agree with, he just has a lot of hands in a lot of different things, and just working with him, like over Christmas break, just getting a call from Amoresco while we're down there and having to go, well, he's kind of got a bossy person that he works with that, go hang a board, go do this, and like I said, you kind of get to see firsthand what he does in a day. It's a lot, so I appreciate him as well.
I will also say that we, at those snow days, when we tried to play all those Saturday games in a row, 5 games in one day, it would not have been possible if that man over there did not make it game ready. So all of his efforts allowed our kids to play. So great job. I appreciate it. Thank you for all you do for our kids.
I guess you got the head of maintenance custodial report.
Agenda item 8, old business. Mr. Mayor, I don't believe we have any old business this evening.
No, sir.
Okay, agenda item number 9, I don't think we have any need to go into closed session. Agenda item 10, consideration action. Agenda item 10A, we do have a routine action item. We have a recommendation before us to approve the certified and non-certified ESP staff seniority list as presented. Mr. Mayor.
I have nothing more to add.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the seniority list as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion, excuse me, motion by Lynn, seconded by Plattner to approve the seniority list as presented. Lynn,
Yes.
Plattner,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 2.
Agenda item 10B, we have a recommendation to approve the Illinois Association of School Board press policy updates for issue number 108 in November of 2021 as presented and previously reviewed. Mr. Mayor.
I have nothing more to add.
Okay. A motion to approve the recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Hicks, seconded by Bradford to approve the press policy updates for issue number 108 as presented. Plattner,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Lynn.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 3.
Agenda item 10C, we have a recommendation to approve the IAA Illinois Association of School Board Press Policy 5, year review of policy 730, 4120, and 8100 as presented and previously reviewed.
I would throw a little side note in here if I could, just a little footnote that this item is a very important piece of what we do as a school district, because being hooked up with the online press policy, we are automatically set up of reviewing policies every year. So it's that 5-year review, so we don't get into the situation that we were in a few years ago. We're trying to catch up, so to speak. And it keeps you current, keeps us reviewing, brings things before us in case we want to make an adjustment, we can. Reword some things, whatever it may be. So I just want to mention that that's built into our system, and I think it's a very important piece. So we recommend that you would approve that this evening. Sorry, Mr. Smith.
Do I have a motion to approve the recommendation as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Plattner, seconded by Hicks to approve the board press policy 5-year review as presented. Smith,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Plattner.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 4.
Agenda item 10D, we have a recommendation to approve the certified substitute teaching daily rate of pay increase to $125 for a full day, effective immediately.
Nothing more to add, just hopefully you'll recommend and approve that tonight, so.
As a committee recommendation that does not require a second, do I have a motion to approve the certified substitute teaching daily rate of pay increase to $125?
So moved.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn to approve the substitute teacher's daily rate as presented. Bradford,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Plattner,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 5.
Agenda item 10E, we have a recommendation to approve Cameron Lee as head football coach. Mr. Lee will be on step 1 of Appendix B, extracurricular schedule 2022-23 of the collective bargaining agreement.
I would just mention something here. I wanted to thank Mr. Olo and Mr. Shelton for a lot of the work that they've done behind the scenes to just kind of dot their I's and cross their T's with this scenario, because it's thinking outside the box a little bit to secure the best candidate we can for our kids. I like that outside the box thinking. You know, they have what they didn't tell you tonight was not only have they been exploring this with the kids and the opportunities, but they also have explored it with the assistant coaches to make sure that these schedules would work for them and that type of thing. So they really did a nice job of bringing a recommendation with as much information as they could bring tonight. But obviously, open to any discussion that the board would like to have. So I just want to say thank you for the work that you've done.
Do I have a motion to approve Cameron Lee as head football coach?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. I do have one question. I know we've got a lot of kids already involved. You mentioned that we've talked to some of them. What's the consensus? Is this going to affect any of our current players? Anybody? What's the consensus amongst parents, kids of the change in time?
We've investigated it on talking to the assistant coaches and so on, but we really haven't talked to a lot of the kids, parents in that regard as far as the change of schedule. I do know that it would be a little bit abnormal from our typical practice schedule we've had done in the past. And like I said, we are willing to explore those options, and if need be, if the board wanted us to, we could investigate that and put a survey out to the players and parents if you'd like us to do that as well.
I did speak with one student I had in my office, and he's a freshman. He'll be a sophomore next year, and I asked him if he would have any problems with being up that early in the morning and practicing. He says, if you're dedicated, you want to play, you'll be there. So I don't know how many other kids feel that way, but I think there's probably going to be some momentum with the students with the new coach at the beginning. Talking with Mr. Lee, and as far as if we do see any numbers issues early on, that we may ask him to adjust the schedule a little bit, maybe do some split schedules, or maybe move it to later in the evening. But we're gonna keep a close eye on that. That is our main concern is are we gonna be able to keep players out at that stage in the morning and getting up and going. Our freshman basketball team already does that.
Right.
So some of those kids are already geared towards that. The benefits is, if they are having academic problems, they're going to be able to get the help after school that they need with project success and some of those. So I think there's going to be some trade-offs. The issue is we're going to keep them getting up early in the morning. I think if we're winning, if we get to the point where we're actually playing and we're winning, it won't be a problem. If we get to that point and we're losing, we may have a problem. And that's where we'll have to make an adjustment.
And there also is a caveat too as well. There's a possible anticipation that his job description may change, which also may kind of get rid of the morning practices to some extent. So that is something that could happen in the near future, but don't really want to say that right now. So that is a possibility that could also change.
And having to share gym space, the fresh soft guys and you've got pretty good numbers there. It doesn't appear that you've lost any of those kids in basketball.
No.
In fact, I think there's 12, 13 at least out, so.
Yep, right. We've had a good season too.
We have motion second before us. Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn, seconded by Plattner to approve Cameron Lee employment as presented. Hicks,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Plattner,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 6.
Agenda item number 11, other new business. I don't think we have any, Mr. Mayor.
No, sir.
Okay. Our next regular meeting, I'll say tentatively, will be Tuesday, March 15th at 5:30 PM. Stay tuned for more on that. Do I have a motion to adjourn at 6:47 PM?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Hicks, seconded by Lynn to adjourn at 6:47 PM. Lynn,
Yes.
Plattner,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 7.